Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video 183, Occult Views about Suicide. I figured this was a pertinent topic because we've had a slew of people who've killed themselves recently, like celebrities and stuff. So it's a touchy subject. Some people get triggered by it or something. And by the way, I don't believe in the PC sort of a trigger warning thing. You can Google the suicide hotline if you're feeling depressed. You could also talk to a friend, family member, whoever, do something. But here's my general view. On a legal level, it's different from on a spiritual level. On the legal level, I think people should be able to seek assisted suicide. Chronic depression, fatal illness, like they've got end-stage AIDS, cancer, something, yes. They should be able to die with dignity. I do support those particular laws. And in certain countries, it's already legal. I think in the Netherlands and Switzerland, if I remember correctly. There are several countries, an American, if you wanted to, end your life, you've got end-stage renal failure. Your liver has failed, you're not on the transplant list, you're doomed. You'll be dead in 6 months after great pain. I don't think that it's ethical or moral to expect a person to exist in pain for any length of time when there is an alternative available. It's also less expensive. The medical system, they don't want their entire estate to be pissed away, essentially. They'd rather get the Kevorkian shot for a couple $100 as opposed to spending tens of thousands to be on life support for months. I think that it should be their right to do so, in consultation, preferably with their family and friends. If applicable, sometimes people want to end their life because they're literally all alone. They should be able to do that. But, here's the big but. On a spiritual level, I think it should be frowned upon, unless the person is already dying. If they're dying, then it shouldn't be a problem. Let them have some dignity. They're going to die anyway. It's just like with this experimental drug bill that we've had here in the U.S., allowing people who are basically, they're doomed, they're going to die, they can take part in medical research that's expedited, the FDA takes a hands off, they can get experimental treatments that wouldn't otherwise be acceptable for human study. Absolutely. If they're going to die anyway, 99% chance, let them have that one shot in the dark. Let them have a little bit of hope at the end of their life, even if it's just a little for the benefit of their family's, well-being. On a spiritual level, though, I think that it should be frowned upon in most situations, and I'll tell you why. The reason why most people would feel suicidal, they feel hopeless, it's not even related to chronic depression. Sometimes they get those feelings, and we all have for the most part. Even people who are very happy-go-lucky, sometimes they're just really sad over something. Bad breakup, a relative died, the cat died, the dog died, and your pet octopus died, whatever it is. And when you're feeling those feelings, sometimes you'd be like, well, I should just end it all. I'm hopeless, I'll never feel good again. Psychologically, that's almost always not true, and it really is just temporary no matter how bad it feels. It's sort of like the angsty teen sort of thing, I'm going to cut myself another slice of pie or something. Or you get to thinking. The other part of it is, for me spiritually, and this is a little bit anecdotal. This, again, many things within the occult only really apply to me when I'm describing them. It's like I've seen paranormal stuff. I don't ask anyone to believe me when I tell them that because that's only proof for me. They weren't there to witness it. For my own practice, a big part of it is the psychological use of pure ambition. That is, looking at negative emotions and trying to transmogrify them into positive emotions as something has upset me. This is a reason to work harder. I'm stressed about money. And I'll give you an example. For months and months, some years ago, I was extremely stressed about money. I was basically broke. Family was on hard times. There were legal problems with regards to my grandfather's estate, essentially. And I was quite depressed. Instead of being well, I'm going to stay in bed all day, or I'm doomed, I should just go, hang myself or something. Instead of thinking that way, I said, hey, isn't this a good reason to just work my ass off to escape this bad fiscal situation? That's how my editing became popularized. That's how I ended up making money as an editor and as an author. Because I was driven by negativity, but then it began to become positive, and I turned myself into a morning rising workaholic, really. So it's become a very positive thing in my life. I can make more videos now on the schedule I've become accustomed to. I can edit, I can do all sorts of stuff. I could have taken the other route and been I'm going to off myself, in which case none of this would be here. Nobody would know who I am really. I would have died, broken alone, essentially. That was the other possibility. I chose to take, I think, the better path in life. It's far preferable, and a lot of times when you're like depressed, you start thinking, well, I don't have any skills, I don't have any talents, especially if it's money related, or if it's like relationship related. It's like, well, nobody could love me, I'm so hideous and terrible and talentless. Oh, and woe is me. Family problems, it's like, well, yeah, they'd be better off without me or whatever. When you begin to think that way, that's exactly the wrong way to go about it. I think from an occult spiritual perspective, if you believe there's a God, or pantheon or whatever, you should please that deity if you believe in that within your practice, if you're a theist. Well, I don't think that it's pleasing to take a believer off of the grand chessboard of the religious world, so to speak, by offing yourself. Wouldn't it be better to expend what talents you have, even if you think they're minute? Wouldn't that be a better result? You can train and work, be ambitious, and then become a paladin in the army of your god, or something like that. And of course, within the context of religion, that can actually be a buffer against, depression in many ways. Some people seek solace, praying, meditating, doing whatever it is. It can be helpful. I do admit this. In regards to a religion, I tend to be anti-religious for the most part. Organized religion largely is a cancer, but individuals within spiritual practice can take some solace, and it can help prevent suicide. It can help prevent depression. A lot of times people will talk to like a priest or a pastor or an imam or whatever about their various psychological issues. I'm thinking that's probably about as good as going to a psychiatrist. Psychiatry is basically bunk science anyway. It's a pseudoscience. It just happens to be one that we accept as a society because it makes us feel better about ourselves to think that we can tackle major neural issues with people who ultimately themselves are often deeply troubled individuals. It makes us feel better as a society, so we tolerate the quack science that is psychiatry. But ultimately, what I would say with regards to suicide in general, from an occult perspective, it's something to be avoided, but on the same end, it should be legal for someone to seek assisted suicide, and they shouldn't have to justify themselves. No, they shouldn't have to get the permission of the government signs off, a couple doctors sign off, their family signs off, the ants living on their kitchen floor sign off, and then they're allowed to get the Kevorkian special Slurpee. Now, that's not how it should work. It should be ultimately up to them. That's about all. Peace out.